of a little bit more of a serious topic here, and this is something that emerged. I think we were all entertained on a Wednesday. And look, there's no Thursday night football. You know what's going to entertain us, though? The latest with the Antonio Brown saga around the National Football League. First off, kind of wanted to start things off. Wednesday evening, he did release a statement via his lawyer talking about the whole incident that happened on Sunday. Now, for those of you that maybe have been living on an island and you just now got back, you don't know what it was. Obviously, Antonio Brown walking off the field in the middle of their game against the New York Jets. Obviously, something that cannot happen and has drawn a lot of question about his status. He stayed in Brooklyn. Obviously, the next night he was at a Brooklyn Nets game, for example. But right now, Antonio Brown saying that he made the organization aware ahead of time of an injury that he was dealing with to his ankle, significant ankle ligament damage and a broken bone fragment inside his ankle, and they still forced him to play. And with that, he has also released text messages to Bruce Arians talking about it. I mean, this thing has gotten ugly, but now as of the time of this recording, he has been officially released by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. This is going to get messy, folks. I don't think that it's done now. I think this is going to be in the spotlight for the next 2 weeks at least.
Well, it's because everything Antonio Brown does becomes messy. And you look at all of his stops throughout his long, and to be honest, at times, great career.
Hall of Fame, even.
Potentially Hall of Fame. I think his antics are going to keep him out. But certainly, if you could remove all of his quite literally just craziness, he would have a real case to be a Hall of Famer. But he is an awful human being. Okay, I don't think we can say this more clearly. He is a liar who lies and lies and lies. And he's done it many, many times throughout his career, many, many times throughout this past year, including, in July when he potentially handed in a felonious vaccine card that was fraudulent. And the NFL suspended him 3 games for that. And it's not like he ever fought the suspension. He knew what he did. He knew he was caught. And it's just the tip of the iceberg of his behavior. Now, so it's a question of credibility to me. Am I going to believe Antonio Brown, who has a long and pretty clear history of being dishonest, of being undependable, of being a locker room cancer? He was on 3 rosters in a calendar year at the height of his powers. This is when he was one of the best wide receivers in football. 3 teams said, thanks, but no thanks because of his behavior. Am I going to believe that guy who, and the theory he has is the Buccaneers were so desperate to beat the New York Jets to potentially get to the 3 seed that they would risk a potential Super Bowl run because they're out of weapons, right? They have a need of wide receiver. And at a peak of fury, Bruce Arians is going to be like, okay, we're going to make you play on one leg against the New York Jets, who, by the way, they beat without him. They rallied and beat him without him. And they could have beaten him with you and I as wide receiver because that team is so bad. And potentially risk our Super Bowl run because if you have this horrible, horrible injury that we know all about, you could get hurt worse. We might not have you in the playoffs. Or maybe a guy who has a history of freaked out once again, was pissed off about money because he's long been pissed off about money because you know what? He doesn't pay the people he owes money to. There's a long history of that as well. He's probably going to go bankrupt. He's probably going to be broke at some point in his career.
There's no probably about it. He will be.
He will be bankrupt. It might be in the next 2 years, to be honest. It might be very soon. We're going to believe that dude, okay? That dude who has zero credibility. And I have no doubt that he has some sort of ankle injury. Believe that completely. Dalton, what percentage of NFL players right now do you think need surgery when the season ends? 15, 20, 25%?
Yeah, probably 30.
30%?
Some sort of minor cleanup surgery, probably around 30%.
And what really galls me, and I'm fired up about this, is that Bruce Arians is the one dude that gave this guy 2nd, 3rd, 4th chances, okay? Yep. And Bruce Arians can't have COVID in his body. Like, he is a dude that is at high risk of having severe complications because of his medical history. And AB put him at risk by lying about his vaccine status. And then he welcomed him back. Bruce Arians. So you're telling me a guy who welcomed back really a bad dude in their locker room because they needed him so desperately, got pissed off and kicked him off the team because he wouldn't play hurt against New York Jets. There is zero way that story is true. And I hope that the Buccaneers, all the evidence they have, they just dump on his head, and we all know the truth about AB.
I will
I
say
hope.
this real quick, Dalton,
Mhm.
and I'm eager for your thoughts on this. This coming out Wednesday evening, I think is a clear sign because look, the Buccaneers at that point they had not released him, even though that in Sunday in the post game presser, Bruce Arians said he's no longer a Buck. There was some investigation going on. I think the Buccaneers were gathering everything that they could because they knew in a situation like this, Antonio Brown was going to gather as much, and so we saw that with the release of the screenshots, which in my opinion doesn't really indicate anything bad on Bruce Arians' side of things. It really doesn't. And we don't know what phone call conversations happened, after those text messages went out. There was also another one about Alex Guerrero, the TB12 trainer, about the money that he'd given him, 100K, which, we see it all the time with professional athletes. They give a lot of money to people outside of organizations, outside of team services to be able to get treatment. And he asked for that. And then he also posts his bank account. That terrible idea by him on doing that. But outside of that, I wanted to throw the question here, Dalton, because it was put in AB's statement by his lawyer that he did take an injection that is a powerful and sometimes dangerous painkiller that the NFLPA has warned against using. Now, I just want to throw this hypothetical out there. Let's say on the percent chance, let's say Antonio Brown is telling the truth. I wanted to ask you, what potential ramifications could the NFL hand down here to Bruce Arians, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in general, if in fact AB is found in the right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely a chance that he is at least telling a version of what the truth is. And that comes down to, Toradol shots, which we are not supposed to see anymore in the NFL, but we all know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's how a lot of these guys get through Sundays. And he's somebody who was on the injury report. We know that ankle was not 100%, but Bruce told us what happened. And I'm not going to sit here and call Bruce Arians a liar because there's no evidence behind that. I think he probably went up to him after he saw him freaking out and said, "What's going on?" He said, "I'm not getting the ball." And he said, "All right, get out." Because at that point, what is the issue? And he was playing early in the game, and then he jumping jacked himself off of the field. So he was obviously healthy enough to go out there and give them snaps if they needed him to. So for me, especially somebody like Bruce Arians, who not just gave Antonio Brown a second, third chance, but is one of the leading voices in minority coaches and opportunities in the NFL. He comes from York City, right where I'm from. It is a very, very diverse place, and he gives a lot of money to that high school to keep it afloat because it is dying. He is somebody who cares deeply about the Black community. And for somebody like AB to just go out there and dive bomb all of this, for me, is ridiculous to see. I really want this to all be over with. I want AB to go away and be quiet. But the issue is he is what so many people believe all athletes to be. He is that spoiled kid who has gotten away with everything in his career and has been allowed to and covered up for his entire career. Mike Tomlin, I'm sure the Pittsburgh Steelers enabled him for years. He's been enabled everywhere that he has gone. He has gotten second and third chances. When he had nowhere else to go, Tom Brady let him live in his house.
Yeah.
So for me to see him throw AG under the bus, Alex Guerrero and Tom Brady, to throw his name under the bus like that and then have AG on the text message say, "Okay, give me your banking info so I can give you the money back." It was obvious he was going to give him money back. So what is AB showing us there either? It's just a man that is completely and totally unhinged and has been now for 5-6 years? There's nothing good that can come out of Antonio Brown at this point, and I just want him to go away quietly and peacefully for the rest of my life.
No, and it's the court of public opinion as well. I feel like Antonio Brown being able to jump in ahead of the Buccaneers, being able to organize a statement. It was reported, though, that Antonio Brown and his agent did reach out to Buccaneers management previously to ask about making the $2 million bonus guaranteed, and they declined that. So it does make sense from that standpoint that, he's looking for that. And obviously, this is going to be something that everybody's going to be following along. Look, there's a great sports law podcast out there called Conduct Detrimental. My good friend Dan Lust, he runs it. He's a sports attorney. Obviously, he practiced sports law for a majority of his career. A lot of great insights looking at every bill, every side of the coin here. So go check that out if you want some more on that. And obviously, we'll keep you updated here at Pro Football Network, PFN Weekly, as we find out more information. But yes, I think that this is a turning point in the saga, and we'll have to see what the NFL decides. Ultimately, the Buccaneers, they got all their eggs in order here in order to officially release him on Thursday prior to the Week 18 season finale.